Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Kustas, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hello. Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Kustas, and today's episode is a special one because I get to introduce you to not only a powerhouse in the personal development world, but also someone that I am so happy to call a friend. Ana Robles is the founder of Yo Soy Amazing, a certified NLP trainer and a business coach who is truly changing lives. She helps entrepreneurs and professionals break through mental blocks, ditch the imposter syndrome, and take bold, aligned action in life and business. What I love about Ana's work is that it blends deep mindset reprogramming with really practical tools that actually move the needle. Her clients walk away not just inspired, but with real results, doubling their income, speaking up with clarity, and finally trusting themselves in a big way. Today, we're going to unpack what NLP really is, how it works, and how you, yes, you, can use it to reset your patterns, boost your confidence, and glow up from the inside out. And I just have a feeling, and I know this from experience because I did have her in the glow up school. I have a feeling that this one's going to light something up in you. So I just want to welcome Ana, and I am so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was so much fun to be at your glow up school, and it just lit me up. It really put I just this is what I love. I love talking about all kinds of mindset, and I love helping people. So it was just so much fun, and thank you.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome. I feel like we're the ones that should be thanking you because it was such a treat. And even before we started recording today, I was telling you that I still have gals talking about it. And it really just did make such an impact. And I think it's something that a lot of people aren't as familiar with and don't really understand it. They might hear the term or something like that, but not really know how it can impact their lives. So I definitely want to dig into all of the things today. But before we do that, before we dive into all the NLP stuff, I'd love for you to just share a bit about your story and what led you into this work, and when did you know that this was your path?
So when I was still in high school, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I came across psychology. I remember taking a class that was psychology, it was like psychology. And then I ended up also being part of peer counseling. And I just really enjoyed understanding how people think and how we can support them to have better lives. At the same time, I had a passion for numbers. And I did what most people do. I found the path of least resistance and I went to school, and learned all about the numbers and all about running businesses. Yet that little voice in my head said, that's not what you really like. You like other things. And I just kept ignoring that voice. And so fast forward 30 some years later, I found myself in a position where I didn't want to be there anymore at where I was at. I had a very successful career. I work with a brand that's highly recognized throughout the world, and I wasn't having a lot of fun. It wasn't fulfilling me. And
Mm,
so somebody ended up dangling a carrot and I followed it, because I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I didn't do my due diligence. And I ended up in a very toxic environment that was mentally challenging, physically challenging, and I needed to leave. And so
mhm.
I chose well, it's time for me to go follow my dream. I just didn't know what that meant. So I ended up leaving corporate without a plan. And I was helping my friend with her business. And I didn't understand what networking was all about because I didn't have the network. So I had no clue what that meant. and started doing some research. And she actually came, my friend comes and says, we should take an NLP class together. Now, I'm the kind of person that loves to do research. I looked it up and I was like, she's crazy. This sounds like way it sounded so intimidating. I was like,
Right.
okay. And then a couple months later, I attended an event and everything that woman was saying, I could relate.
Mm,
And all I was doing, I was going to a workshop to learn how to network because I wanted to help build a business and eventually have my own business. And
mm,
so I just remember, oh my gosh, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Well, if that's me, everything that she's relating, saying, and that's me right now, and yet she has a different life, I want to know how she did it. And she talked about having a 1 day workshop, and like I signed my friend up, and
mhm.
we go to that event, and the woman's talking NLP, and I turn around and I looked at my friend. Oh my God, this is hilarious. The one thing I said I wouldn't do, now I want to take. So I took it. And again, I'm still going in there because I'm going to be better at networking, not realizing that it's all psychology, that it was
Mm.
actually giving me the tools so that I could heal all the wound experience at my last at corporate. And I feel like I was like this little I was in this little cocoon, and I was like, this little butterfly that ready to come out. And once I took the class, I started to fly, and I was like, something is happening. I don't understand, but I want more of this. And
Mm.
I just kept taking more classes, like what else is next? What else is next? And I ended up taking a how to become a trainer of NLP and not realizing what I was doing it for. After going through that in 1 year, I realized that this was so powerful how it changed my life, and now I wanted to give it back to people. And at the same time, it was psychology, what I wanted to do back in high school. Go figure.
I love that. And I love, gosh, when you said at the beginning that you did peer counseling in high school, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot all about that. That is a that is something that I did as well. We had started it in high school and I just remember I was like, I want to do that. That is something that I would love to do. Probably one of my favorite things that I did. And I'm just recognizing, like, wow, that was already part of my interest. That was part of my love of just, helping, serving, but also understanding humans, how to relate to humans, how to communicate better. I mean, gosh, I just haven't heard that in such a long time. And it just took me back to that place. So we definitely have that in common. And like you said, sometimes we have this path that we're on and we think, that we've got those blinders on and we're like, okay, we're good at this. This is what we're meant to do. This is what we're doing. And you just kind of get in that rhythm. And then all of a sudden, something is brought to us that maybe looks different. And we're like, what? Like, what is that about? And you just never know where it can take you. But clearly, this was something that was already in you. I know that this is such a gift that you have to give to the world. And so I'm grateful that you listened to that because I think that that's something so important. Yeah, you could be doing all the things with numbers and all of that, but it's just always such like a great testimony when you actually listen to something new, a new opportunity that's brought to you, and you just never know where that can take you. So I love that. And I know, okay, so I know we've used the term NLP, and for a lot of people, I know that this can sound very, like you said, intimidating, overwhelming, can sound a little mysterious. Like, what is NLP? So can you break it down for us? What is NLP and why is it so powerful?
So NLP is actually everything in NLP comes from the world in psychology, hypnosis, and it's basically modeling the behaviors, modeling the techniques that have get created the fastest results in someone. So what does NLP mean? It stands for neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro means your nervous system, your unconscious mind, the one that has that little voice in your head that's telling you, don't do that, or it's making you question things. That's part of your nervous system, your unconscious and conscious mind that are connected. The linguistic part is the words that we use. And our unconscious mind is like having this little child, little girl, or little boy inside of you that is listening to everything we are saying. And everything we're saying is taking it as a command, which becomes the programming, which is really just creating our habits and the patterns that we are constantly following. And we have like no idea why we do these things. It's because that little girl, that little boy that's inside of us is listening to those words that they learn, and it's created the patterns that we're following. And so it's three words that
Mhm.
create our reality.
Yeah, so good. And I know that we mentioned, like in your bio, we were talking about, it's about reprogramming your mind. Can you just walk us through that a little bit and what that really means and what's actually happening in the brain when someone uses these tools or, taps into NLP?
So we're so used to doing things a certain way because we created a program. Think of it like, and this is an analogy that I use often a lot, is when we buy a cell phone or a computer, it comes with one specific program.
Hmm.
And every so often, we'll get that little notification to upgrade it so that it runs smoother. So NLP is just like having that particular tool that you get to carry in your tool belt to reprogram how you're currently doing things. Look, when we were born like this carefree child. I love looking like at my nieces and my nephews, my great grandniece, I think that's what it would be. I love how they're exploring the world. I love how they're learning to walk, and all of a sudden they have this new ability to do something, and they're just doing it because they love it. And then they get so curious, and they're opening drawers, or they're opening doors. They want to see things, they want to taste things. So we
Hmm.
are this child that we have curiosity. Along the line, someone said, don't do that, don't touch it. It's gonna hurt you. And all of a sudden, oh, that's dangerous. So we stop doing it. So it creates this program. So with NLP, it's like I want to find out what is the root that caused that, like that program to change, and we just reprogram it with different words, and they could
Hmm.
be your words. Like one of the things we were talking about is in the glow up school, and I was just talking about it earlier today, is
Yeah.
we constantly say, I don't want to lose something. Well, what do we
Mm.
are, what do we do is when we lose something, we got to find it. So if I'm saying I don't want to lose weight, then we let go of the weight, but now wait, hold on, I lost it. I gotta go get it. So it's
Mm.
just changing the words that we use to really reprogram where we're at now so that it starts to, create a new pattern.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because I know that that was something that was so profound for us in the Globe School. We were like, it was like our minds were just blown. You could hear all of us go, oh, because it's such a, you know, it was profound for us to say, okay, we don't want to say we have lost the weight because then, of course, when we lose something, we want to find it. And in our brains, we are then doing everything we can to find that again. And then that's where you were talking about then you gain the weight. And this is why you see all of these fluctuations with women because it's what we are programmed in our patterns in our brain telling us. I just thought that was fascinating and such a great gift that you gave to us because I loved that you also said that in the school that you said, here are some gifts I'm going to give to you. And I just felt like that was such a gift because it really made me think about the words that we use and how we program our brains. And I know you mentioned something about, and we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but you just have a beautiful way of sharing it is talking about our brain and what is used, like you were talking about the percentages of our subconscious versus our conscious. Do you mind just telling us a little bit about that?
Oh, I would love to. So our brain is this one whole piece, and consistently see this where we see the image of the iceberg, right? We see only the top of the iceberg. We don't see what's underneath. It's really one brain, but the top 5% is only what we actually use. And that
Mhm.
is the part that is more egotistical, like I know everything. I already know that. But really underneath that, it's everything that's happening. That's your unconscious mind, that's your subconscious mind. That could be your nervous system that's regulating everything. Because if we
Mm,
really think about it, our unconscious, our subconscious mind or our nervous system has a blueprint of our entire life. And it
yeah.
has a blueprint, especially of, and I'm just using this as an example of our health. So think about it for a second right now. Who is really controlling every single movement that you're doing right now? Whether we're shaking our head, whether we're going like this, whether we're blinking, moving our hand left to right, picking up our cell phone, picking up a pen. Is it your conscious mind or your unconscious mind? Because who's
Mhm.
creating that movement? Who is controlling your breathing? Who is controlling
Right.
the blood flowing throughout your body? It's really that conscious or the unconscious mind, subconscious mind that's controlling everything. Because if I were to consciously do it, I was like, I got to remember, I got to breathe, take a breath, open my mouth, move my finger. I mean, maybe I go
Can you imagine?
crazy.
Can you imagine if we had to really like think about all of that? Isn't it crazy?
Right. So it's that part of our brain that's actually creating all the movement, the unconscious mind. That's
Mhm.
actually the part of the brain. Like when we start thinking about something, I was like, oh, I really want to get this new car. I really want like a Lexus or a Porsche or whatever car it is that you want, a Jeep.
Mhm.
Suddenly you start to see it on the freeway. You start to see that it's because the unconscious mind is bringing a forefront for you. So
Yeah.
our unconscious mind is the one that's regulating. So what NLP does, it's really helps you bridge that gap between your conscious and unconscious mind so that they are working together.
Mhm. I love that. And, I'm just curious too, because you mentioned the nervous system. And that's something that I just feel like is really on the forefront for a lot of women these days. Like people really finally recognizing how important our brain and our mindset is, but also understanding how important it is to regulate the nervous system as well. And so, I am just curious from your point of view, why is it important not just to think differently, but to also feel it in your body? And, what role does the nervous system play in this as well, or does it?
Does it does. And so this kind of takes me a little bit of something that I share in the Glove School. We have we have these filters of how we receive information. And
Mm,
within those filters, we create images and we attach things to those images. So our nervous system could be regulated by images that we see, it could be regulated by how we feel, it could be regulated by our thoughts. Everything it works together. So if our nervous system or our unconscious mind is feeling off, it's gonna, and we constantly are the type of person that feels things, we are gonna feel that misalignment, or we're gonna feel like maybe the nervousness, or we might feel the like anxiety, or some of us start to like create these pictures in our head, and then that picture then creates a feeling, because we have all four of us within ourselves. It's just one of them
yeah.
is more dominant in each person, and everyone is, that's what makes each human being unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I so love that. So this is just like, oh gosh, this is where my brain always, then I start rolling and I start thinking of all these things I want to ask you. But okay, so here's a couple of questions just in regards to NLP and the practice and what that looks like. So for instance, I feel like I am always in touch with a lot of high performers, and I feel like so many, especially, I don't know, there's something about women, so many of us struggle with this self-doubt. So I'm curious, what is it about, or I guess I should ask, how does NLP help to shift that? Shift maybe kind of like, I'm thinking about entrepreneurs, the imposter syndrome, or maybe procrastination and, all the self-doubt. How does NLP actually shift that for you?
Once you, so I took NLP as a certification, well, because it's a certification course because it's run by different boards.
Yeah.
And I'm part of the American board. So all of my students will get certified through the American board. I took NLP because I was feeling the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt. I was like questioning myself, like, am I going in the right direction? Like, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? I'm not an entrepreneur. If I've always been, working in corporate, I had all these questions, and as women, are we come into this world and we're like given that title that we're the nourishing ones, we're the nurturers ones, we're the ones that take care of things, we're the
Yeah.
feminine and all of that. And that's all beautiful. Yet as an individual, we're always giving and giving. And then we
Mhm.
end up drained. And then comes a point where like, what do I do? What do I want? So I took NLP because I felt I was lost. And
Mm.
what I found with the NLP is I was learning how the mind listens, how the mind uses words. So I was like, oh, I say those words. So I was able to reframe them,
Mhm.
adapt to changing my vocabulary and really living in this new vocabulary. And it started to change the patterns as well. And this happens instantaneously because it's like that little girl that we have inside, the one that I mentioned earlier, is
Yeah.
finally saying, oh, you're listening to me. I
Mm.
finally feel heard. Oh, I finally feel seen. And all of a sudden it starts to like relax. And it's okay, now how do I do things now that I have your attention? So NLP just gives you the tool to have that conversation,
I love
to
that.
retrain it, reframe it, and it happens instantly because now you feel safe. That little girl or that little boy, whoever it is inside of you. And I say that because
Mhm.
I don't know, everybody's gender is different. I
Yeah.
know we
Yeah.
have men and women listening. Um, and so I think once you feel safe, you feel heard, you feel seen, you feel like you're being hugged. So we automatically drop that guard, and it
Mhm.
really reframes somebody. It really reprograms somebody. So some of the modalities are so instantaneously, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden you find yourself using the tools unconsciously.
I love that. Well, I'm just curious. Now, I know this is like giving up your secrets, but is there a simple NLP based practice that a woman out there could try today to feel more in her power? Is there one example that you can give of like one of those tools, I guess you would say?
Yes, my favorite one is what it's called anchoring, and there's different levels of anchoring. My favorite one is there's been a time in our life where we felt the confidence, where we felt the happiest, where we felt the most successful, the sexiest, the healthiest, the strongest. I would
Mhm.
invite you to recall that moment in your life where you felt whatever is that emotion or whatever is that state that you were at, and like really what did you see, what did you feel, what did you hear, like bring it up. For me personally, I love to anchor that emotion. Like I share with you, I always do it in the back of my ear,
Mhm.
and when I need to feel that, I recall that image, or I just touch the back of my ear to just really step back into that state where I feel the strongest, or where I feel the sexiest, or the smartest, or the most confident. That that because everything that happens in our past becomes a memory.
Mm,
The future is hasn't happened yet. We get to create it. What's happening now is the present. So if you can recall that memory from the past and bring it to the now, to your
mhm.
present, it rewires your future.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And the anchoring was so big. I know you like went in it in, a ton of depth with us. That's the great part about being in the Globe School is we get to go more in depth, but I love that. And it really made so much sense. And I have to tell you, I have been practicing that more, like anchoring that in, and it totally is a game changer. It really, really is. And that's like another reason why I felt like, man, this is such an important tool. Like this is just so important for I think we talked about it that I'm like everybody needs to know this. Like this is something, and if you want to go deeper in it, it's even more of a game changer. And I just feel like it can it really does. It changes our patterns, it changes our way of thinking. And I believe with all of my heart that these are the types of things that I wish we knew more about, uh, to be able to navigate life, because life is not always easy. It can be so challenging, and things that we're not in control of can be a challenge. And you had talked about like just the way that you use your words, the way that you say things, like how that can just be, we're not even paying attention to it, but like once you start to change some of those basic words that you are putting into your brain, it literally changes like what happens in your daily life, in how your lens is for the future, all of the things. Like I just find it so, so fascinating. And I would love to know, just because I know you work with, lots of clients, you are, and we'll definitely talk about this in a moment about how you help people get certified in all of this. And I definitely would love to know that I would love to know about, just for our listeners to hear, what is I guess, a story, a testimonial story of either yourself or a client that you've worked with where NLP has literally like changed them, or has just they've seen major results and it has been a transformation for them or for you.
Oh wow. Well, actually, I was just reminiscing. My niece is going to be 8 years old next week, and
Hmm.
I actually left corporate a month after she was born. So
Okay.
I was just reminiscing how NLP has allowed me to be my own boss, to have my own business, and 8 years later. Um, and it gave me the tool to heal like what I had, like, all traumas and dramas that I've had.
Yeah.
And just because we're human beings, we hold on to things. What I've also seen is I didn't know this, and as I work with some of my clients, like one person had came to me and said, I didn't even know how I was going to pay my rent, but I just knew that I needed to sign up.
Mm,
And I was like in shock. And that person said, I didn't even have $700 to pay for rent. And I just knew I needed this tool. So the person really put, everything, like really went all in. And fast forward, their income grew to the point that it went to over 300,000 in a matter of a year.
gosh, wow.
I had another person who was somewhat successful in their career, yet their relationship with others was not there. So they were having some success, but they were constantly having to get new clients until they learned how to communicate their retention change, their business grew, but then their relationship with other people changed. And about 2 years ago, I had a gentleman who's very successful called me and he said, "Can you please come? Are you able to help one of our managers who's having some emotional issues?" And I said, "Sure. Does he want the help?" And they said yes, because this is part of him staying on if he agrees to get some help. So I
Mm,
met with this gentleman, worked with him for a little while, and I realized that there was so much going on that was so much happening at work that was like affecting home life, and then the home life was now affect. So it was like both, things were like just working. So I started working
right.
on communication with this particular person, and I started focusing a bit with what was happening at home, like
Mm,
explaining how to communicate better. That started shifting, and then that ended up transferring to work and doing really well at work. And about a year ago, I ran into the wife of the business owner. So it's a couple and they have different businesses. And she says, "I didn't realize that you were working on his personal stuff when he was working with you." And I said, "Well, they're
mhm.
all related. And if I didn't work on that, then we wouldn't be able to have that success that you're having right now." And she was just blown away how
Yeah,
that affected
right.
that, but it was actually affecting their business. So happy marriage, happy kids, and then happy at work. So there's so
Amazing.
much,
So
yeah.
connected, right? Like it's just so connected. And I always say that. I always feel like, it all bleeds into everything. Like, our the way we are at home carries into the energy we bring into our workplace and vice versa. Like it all goes together. So it makes perfect sense. And so, of course, that leads me to where can women go to work with you or learn more about NLP and what it is that you teach?
You could go to Instagram or you could go to my website. I'm revising my website and I talk all about things NLP. I do have a certification. I decided to move it back a little bit to September
Okay.
because I'm adding more things to it, or
Nice.
the same tools, but just making them so that they could grasp them a little faster. I want their success so much more than you could imagine. So I just want to make it very successful for everyone.
I love that. I love that. So, you guys, you definitely want to go check that out. And of course, before we wrap up, it's time for something new and fun that I've added to the podcast, and it's called Spark and Spill. And these are just quick questions. Think of it as like rapid fire, fast answers, straight from your heart, Anna. And you don't have to take a ton of time to think about it, but I think it's fun. Just a fun way. I was actually on another podcast and they did this, and I was like, that is such a fun way to even just get to know our guest a little bit better and just a little bit more personally. I know we talk a lot, of our stories and our business and that kind of stuff, but these are just fun questions. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, girl. Okay, so let's start with this one. What is something that instantly shifts your mood?
Flowers. I
Book
love
or
fresh
podcast?
flowers.
I love them too, girl. I do love them so much. And I love my favorite place is when I go to like Trader Joe's and I just am able to pick up a few different kinds and like create a bouquet. There's something about fresh flowers that hit differently for sure. So I love that. Next question, book or podcast that you're currently loving?
That's a tough one because I listen to both. I am obsessed right now with Kyle C's The Illusion of Money.
Ooh, no one has mentioned that before. Okay, I love that. So is that a podcast or a book?
That is a book. It's on Audible. I think I've listened to it like maybe 50 times already. And every single time, yes, like I said, I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, I love it.
Every single time I listen to it, I catch something new.
I love that. Okay. You might have to send us that link, girl, and then maybe we could put that in the show notes.
Okay.
All right. Here's a fun one. What is one thing on your nightstand right now?
One thing on my nightstand. I actually have a little like a journal
Okay.
that because sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with a thought, and I know that if I tell myself I'll remember in the morning, I don't. So if I'm
So
waking
good.
up, I'm like, okay, writing it down. So
I love that. I love that. So good. Okay, next one. Coffee, tea, or something else entirely that you love to drink?
coffee.
Me too, girl. Me too.
Mhm.
All right, two more questions. A woman who inspires you and why?
Woman that inspire, it's my mom.
Love it.
Why? Because sh she's so resilient
Hmm.
and she's so creative. Uh, she always figures it out.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that I noticed since growing up is she always figured it out, and I always wanted to be like that.
Oh, I love that. And we probably see it so much more so like as we get older, like you see it in the younger self, but then you probably just recognize it even more, like to where you appreciate it more. I know I
Mhm.
certainly do with my mom. So, all right, last question. Speaking of younger self, if you could give your younger self one sentence or piece of advice, what would that be?
Trust the word that just came up, trust yourself. You have all the answers inside of you.
Oh, I love it. So good. So good, Anna. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with us today and just sharing your energy and your truth. You truly are so amazing. And that's why I love that you go by Yo Soy Amazing. I love it. And I know every listener is walking away feeling more confident, more aligned, and ready to take some action. And we will again make sure that we link everything in the show notes so you can stay connected with Anna and you can dive into her world. In the meantime, make sure that you're also, checking her out on Instagram. She is always hanging out there and always has these beautiful words of wisdom. And if this episode just like lit a spark in you, screenshot it, share it to your stories, tag us, leave a review. It all matters. And we would be so grateful to just hear from you. So we'd love to hear any of your favorite takeaways. And of course, keep rising, keep shining, and know the best is right here waiting for you today. All right, you guys. Bye, friends. And thank you so much, Anna. Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review. And don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.